I asked 100 FPL experts for their Game Week 1 drafts to see what we could find out. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan and you are not going to want to miss this video. In my opinion, it is the most important video you will watch this preseason. We're going to find out so much. Okay guys, so in this video, I asked 100 FPL experts for their drafts, and what I did is I logged every single player in all of the 100 drafts, so 1,500 total players put into a spreadsheet, and I also looked at some other details within these drafts. For example, I looked at who is picking Haaland versus Salah, who is picking both, how many Arsenal defenders people are going for, how much money people are spending on their benches, are they using any chips, what captains they are using. There is so much information in today's video, so you are going to learn a lot, trust me guys. And a massive shout out to the 100 experts that helped us out with today's video, offering their drafts, offering their data, because we couldn't do this without them. Obviously this video took a lot of work to produce, so if you guys wouldn't mind leaving a like, we're shooting for 2,000 likes on this video, that would be massively appreciated. And make sure you do subscribe if you want to find out what our 100 experts are doing every week throughout the season and seeing just how high they can finish in terms of the rankings. But I'm excited to get going. Let's have a look at some of this data. Okay, so I think this is a good place to start. So who are the top picks among our expert drafts? Who is being selected the most? And we do have a clear standout player who is in almost all of our 100 experts Game Week 1 team, and that is Alexander Isak. So what we see here is basically Isak is essential. If you are going to be a top manager in FPL this season, then you're going to have to pick Isak in your team, because that is an insanely high percentage. After that, we do see a little bit of differentiation. By the way, guys, 126 different players were selected by our experts for their Game Week 1 teams this year. So to see players anywhere above 50% is very, very impressive indeed. And we see the likes of Haaland, Nkunku, Salah, Eze, Barco, Gvardiol, all above 50% ownership. In fact, all above 68% ownership. So if you're looking at the top managers' teams, 2/3 of them are going to have these players that you see in the top 7 right now. So they're definitely highly recommended players that make a great start for building your team. So get these players in your team and then we can start looking at some options around them. So let's go position by position, starting with goalkeepers. And Henderson is our #1 selected goalkeeper among our expert. Now, interestingly, this year, there isn't a goalkeeper who is a massive standout. However, the two 4.5 million popular options do seem to be Henderson and Flecken, and they seem to be at the top of this list, 34% and 30% selected respectively. So these are the big guys. After that, Raya sees himself at 18% selected. So those looking to go in on the Arsenal defense, Raya seems to be the choice to get those clean sheet points from Arsenal. After that, we see a real big drop off for the rest of the, I guess, popular goalkeepers. Sells, Pope, Becker, Pickford. I can't believe I just called Alisson Becker. I guess that's his name on the FPL website. And we've got players like Areola, Sanchez and Martinez really at the bottom. No strong trends towards these players. So if you're looking for a 4.5 million goalkeeper, Henderson just about edges Flecken, but Raya is also there as a 5.5 if you're happy to spend a little bit more money. Outside of that, there's no real strong trends. For defenders, the big dog is Gvardiol. If you've got Gvardiol in your team, I think you are on for a really good start. After that, it's kind of a whole bunch of optional players, and we do see a lot of diversity this year among our experts' defenses. So Gvardiol is the #1 pick, of course, but 46%, almost half, picking Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. Pedro Porro is a surprise here, 5.5 million defender. He comes in at 41% selected among our experts, which is super high, and we see a couple of 4.5s here as well. Mikalenko and Robinson seem to be the two picks of the 4.5 million defender category. After that, Munoz, if you're happy to spend a little bit more than an Anderson, those players are both at 18% and 17%. So a little bit of love here for the Crystal Palace defense with Henderson on the last page, and we see Munoz, Anderson, and actually Mark Gay down at 13th as well. He's at 5% selected. But the big news here is there's not that much love for Arsenal Arsenal defence, and we're going to cover Arsenal defence later on in the video and see how many Arsenal defenders our experts are selected. But certainly, they're probably a little bit lower than you maybe expected to see. You know, certain players like Saliba, very popular among the overall player base, but among experts, not so much. And I'm going to go through as well later on in the video the top players selected a lot by the overall player base, but not so much by our experts, who are maybe overrated traps that our experts actually don't like, despite their popularity. But we do see a few interesting options here as well. Kwanzaa makes the bottom of the list, a little bit of a nice differential there, as is Livramento. So if you want to go for someone a little bit different, Kwanzaa, Livramento, Hall, these seem to be the kind of players to go for those cheap price tags. But it's all about Gvardiol for the defenders. Make sure you got him in your team, and then you can build something around that. In the midfield position, there are three standout players, Nkunku, Salah and Eze, and they all have almost identical ownerships among our experts. 70% for Nkunku and Salah, and 69% for Eze, the funny number. So yeah, these are the players you want to be getting in as first priority. After that, then we can have a look at some of these other options. We've got Gordon at 35%, maybe a little bit lower than you expected. Saka at 28%. We can have a look at the kind of sub-premium midfielders a little bit later on in the video, but yeah, Saka is there. Smith Rowe is our number one 5.5 million pick. We also see Rodgers at 5 million with 23% selected as well, so a lot of people going for Rodgers this year. Son is also reasonably popular as a premium, and Diogo Jota, who expected to see him there? He is not loved by the overall FPL player base, but 16% of our experts are going for the main man. Of course, there's loads of other cheap options lower down this list that are being selected by a few of our experts. And there is one major player who is missing from this list that our experts do not seem to like, but we will cover that very, very shortly. But guys, Nkunku, Salah, Eze, those are your top midfielders. Outside of that, it's a bit of a free-for-all really, with lots of options for you to go for. And I should add, by the way, guys, if you are watching this video and you are looking for a player that you have in your current team, that you're not seeing them on these expert list of players, well, you should maybe be a little bit worried. There's nothing wrong with going a little bit different, but if our experts are not really liking a certain player and you have that certain player, maybe you should just look at that player with a bit of caution. On the inverse, these lists that I'm kind of showing you today for defenders, for midfielders, for all of the positions, I think they make really, really nice transfer targets lists for your Game Week 1 teams. If you see a player on one of these lists that you quite like the look of, well, if enough of our experts are selecting them, then they must be a pretty good pick, so there's no problem going for them. If they're not on this list, maybe you should be a little bit worried. So guys, let me know, is there any players that you are not seeing on these lists that you have in your FPL team right now? Who are they? And are you worried now that you've seen that the experts aren't going for them? But we need to look at forwards next. Before we do that, a big shout out to Fantasy Football Hub for supporting the channel. Guys, we are in the last week to get this exclusive Fantasy Football Hub deal where you can get 50% off your subscription and your money back if you don't win your mini league. Make sure you are signing up using the link in the description. They have great tools for Opta stats, for looking at predicted points and AI. We've got like a team racing tool on there as well. Every tool that the experts are using is on this website, and you can get it all in one big subscription package. Guys, the top managers are using Fantasy Football Hub, and I definitely recommend you do the same. So as we know, Isak is the big forward being selected, 96%. I think that makes him essential at this point. Very difficult to get 96 people to agree on one thing in the world of FPL. And yeah, most of them are agreeing with the Isak pick for this season. Haaland is the next player there in second place, 73%. And after that, if you're playing with a 3-forward formation, you're going to have to pick someone else. And outside of Isak and Haaland, there is no standout candidates here. We've got Muniz and Solanke with a decent amount of popularity, 28% each. After that, Watkins down at 17% with Chris Wood there, 17%. Kai Havertz, 14%, and Joao Pedro, 7%. There wasn't really any other strong trends among forwards that were being selected. So this, I think, really is the definitive list of forwards that we maybe are choosing from right now. I know that I've not really looked at any forwards outside of this list, and for good reason. These are the popular picks among our experts for very good reason. There's only 8 of them, pick three. Pick your three favourites. There we go. Let's move on because we've got so much more to go through. So I've done this page that is dedicated to the bench players. And what I mean by that is those players that cost the bare minimum in their position, I guess. So for goalkeepers, the minimum price is 4 million. A lot of people looking to go for a 4 million goalkeeper on their bench, and the majority seem to like Valdemarson. So Valdemarson is the new backup goalkeeper for Brentford. So if you've gone for Flecken, maybe combining him with Valdemarson is a good idea. So if Flecken ever gets injured or maybe dropped, you do have Valdemarson there to cover him. But also, maybe a few people thinking if Flecken struggles again this season, maybe Valdemarson actually gets a chance to start, because out of the 4 million goalkeepers, we haven't really got any that are first choice. We don't have any that are first choice. So you're going to have to depend on injuries or, you know, a major loss of form from a starting goalkeeper to get any points from those 4 million goalkeepers. And Valdemarson seems to be the top of the picks there. Fabianski and Turner also above 10% there. Bentley and Ward completing that list of the popular players. We've got defenders. Barco, 68% selected. So he is by far the favourite 4 million defender among our experts. After that, we see a little bit of love for Harwood Bellis there. Fass there at 15%. Johnson and Taylor, each 5%ers in the 4 million defender category. For midfielders, only two options. The 25% selected Harry Winks, and we've got Sangare of Nottingham Forest as well, who should get a decent amount of game time. And with his lower ownership, he is less likely to drop down to that dreaded 4.4 million price tag that midfielders and forwards often get to at the in the early stages of the season as people look to make transfers to switch their formation. For 4.5 million forwards, Jebison is coming out on top. With Solanke leaving Bournemouth, maybe Jebison could get some minutes up front for Bournemouth, and Stewart of Southampton is also 5% selected there. And guys, those are the categories of players wrapped up, but we do still have a lot to talk about. If you are enjoying this one, please make sure you are dropping a like, do subscribe. Let's move on. So here are the top 10 overrated players. And when I say overrated, I don't mean that these players are bad picks. I just mean that our experts don't like these players as much as the overall player base does. So maybe the overall player base, your typical FPL manager, maybe they are overrating some of these players a little bit, judging by their high overall selection. So we see players like Watkins. He is selected by 45% of the overall player base right now. However, among our experts, he's only selected by 17%. Now, maybe I'm being a bit harsh including Watkins on this list, because 17% of experts' selections is still pretty good. That's not nothing. It's certainly a decent trend there, but it's nothing insane in the same way as Watkins in the overall player base seems to be, top 2-3 picks in the entire game. He is simply not that among experts. So you might consider Watkins to be one of the top picks of the game. Our experts disagree. They don't think he's one of the top picks. They still think he's a good pick. They still think he's a pick worth looking at, but they don't think he's a top pick. Next up, Palmer. And I think Palmer really is the other poster boy of overrated players for the overall player base, because despite the fact that he has 44% selection in the overall player base, he's only selected by 3% of experts. Yes, only 3 of our experts picked Cole Palmer for their FPL teams for Game Week 1. That is a huge, huge difference. And it probably means if you do have Palmer in your team right now, and, looking at the numbers, around 44% of you probably have Palmer in your team right now, maybe that is something to reconsider, considering that our experts are not a fan of this pick at all. Saliba, almost 40% ownership overall. Only 7% of experts like him. Foden, 24% overall selected, only in 2 expert teams. And we are a little bit worried about his minutes in Game Week 1, considering, he's coming back very, very late to Man City training. So we're not sure how involved he is going to be at the beginning of the season. Trippier, another player that our experts don't like. Martinez for Aston Villa. Garnacho, obviously we see a lot of Manchester United fans playing FPL, maybe getting a little hyped up after the Community Shield final, but again, another player that our experts don't seem too keen on, as with Virgil van Dijk. And at the bottom of this list here, we've got Branthwaite and Tony, each are selected by over 10% of the overall player base. and yet neither of these players are in any of our expert teams, because why go for Branthwaite at 5 million when you can go for Mikolenko at 4.5 or Pickford at 5? And why go for Tony when, you know, we're not even sure that he's going to be playing for Brentford within the next few weeks? He's linked to Saudi Arabia at the moment, apparently, but who knows where he's going to end up. But at 10% overall selected and 0% expert selected, he's definitely a player that needs to be removed from teams immediately. On the flip side of this, there are some picks that our experts really do like, but maybe the overall player base are overlooking. So are these players underrated, and are these players really opportunities for you to pick some players that maybe your mates in your mini league are not selecting? If you're looking to win your mini league, there's a good chance that none of them own any of the players on this list. So, going through them, Henderson is our best differential goalkeeper here. He's selected by 34% of experts, and under 10% of the overall player base are going for him. Robinson is a similar situation, although I have to say, a lot of our experts are looking to bench Robinson in game week 1. So be aware of that, but still a nice inclusion for 4.5 million. A couple more Fulham players here, Muniz and Smith Rowe. They've got great fixtures, and I think our experts recognise the opportunity that these fixtures kind of possess, but overall player base, not too keen on the Fulham players. Rodgers, nice differential there as well. Munoz, the Crystal Palace defender. We've got Chris Wood here. We've got Diogo Jota. And at the bottom here, we've got Jacob Murphy and Minter, Yankuba Minter as well. Both 5.5 million midfielders, both only selected by around 1% of the overall player base. Yet among our experts, actually, they have a little bit of popularity here with good starts to the season, good pre-season form for both these players. These players could be really, really nice, underrated, hidden gem differentials for your FPL team. And you've heard that from the experts. They're recommending these players, not me. There you go. But I do happen to agree with them. I think they look like really nice picks. We'll do formations very quickly because I don't think there's too much to say here. 76% are using a 3-4-3 formation. It seems pretty obvious why. Defenders maybe not providing as much value last season, so the 3 at the back formations are going to be popular, as seen with our second most popular formation, which is the 3-5-2 formation. Once again, 3 defenders, but prioritising an extra midfielder rather than an extra forward. So that is something that's interesting. 3 at the back seems to be the way forward, and only 3% are going for 4 at the back formation. So we've got 2 people going for a 4-4-2, 1 person going for a 4-3-3 there as well. So yeah, guys, 3 at the back is the way. Let's move on. So before we move on to captains, I wanted to look at some of those key decisions that we're all thinking about this pre-season, and hopefully this is going to really, really help you out. I know this has helped me out a lot in my decision making for game week 1. So first of all, Haaland versus Salah. This is a big debate, maybe the biggest debate pre-game week 1. And we actually see a slight edge on Haaland versus Salah. So if you're only picking one of Haaland or Salah, Haaland just edges it. 25% going for just Haaland, 23% going for just Salah. But given that that is so close, I wouldn't read into it too much. If you want to use this as a coin toss to help you decide which one to go for, then fair enough. But it is really close. And I don't think there's a right answer here. I wish I could tell you that there was a clear answer. Maybe there is, because 46% of our experts are actually going for both of these players. Yes. So that seems to be the most popular thing to do, is actually have both Haaland and Salah. We only see 5%, however, on neither. So if you don't have Haaland or Salah, then you are in the huge minority among top managers, and I think the trends really are suggesting that you need to have at least one of those 2 players, and you're probably going to be looking to captain them as well for game week 1, but we'll have a look at the captains in one moment. For premium midfielders, and I'm talking about the sub-Salah premium midfielders, so the likes of Saka, Son, Bruno, Ødegaard, Palmer, etc. It seems like Saka is the favoured player at the moment. 40% of the kind of sub-premium midfielders being selected are Saka's. So, yeah, Saka 40%. Son is second favourite there with 24%. After that, Bruno Fernandes, actually the third most popular of those premium midfielders. And out of all of the others, so that's Palmer, Foden, KDB, De Bruyne, and Ødegaard, those are the other 4, they only make up 18%. of the other selected midfielders there. So Saka is your guy. Son is obviously a choice there as well. Bruno's quite nice at 8.5, and all of the rest are pretty much being ignored by our experts right now. So yeah, make of that what you will. For Arsenal defenders, well, they're actually not as popular as you probably thought, because every time you kind of look at the most popular picks in defence, you know, you expect to see Arsenal players up there, but our experts are not that interested. 64% of our experts don't have any Arsenal defenders in their team whatsoever. 31% have just one Arsenal defender, and by the way, that does include David Raya as well. We have 4% with 2 Arsenal defenders and just 1 person with 3 Arsenal defenders. So really, guys, the Arsenal defenders are not that popular. Certainly doubling up or tripling up on the Arsenal defense is not recommended. Only 5% of our experts have more, well, 2 or more Arsenal defenders, and most of them have none. So no problem with going without Arsenal defenders. They've got some really tough away fixtures in the opening 5, so it's not entirely surprising. Now, one key trend I did notice this year is that people are spending more money on their bench. That is something that is maybe helped by players like Rodgers, Smith Rowe, Oscar Bob maybe. These really, really cheap midfielders. Some people are opting to upgrade their 4.5 bench midfielder and bring on someone who is maybe 5 or 5.5 million. So we're seeing a lot of 5 and 5.5 million midfielders included in our draft. So for that reason, we're seeing more money on the bench as well. A lot of people looking to have a 4.5 million defender on the bench as well. We're seeing a lot of that. Overall, we've got 3 of our expert managers, well, 6% of our expert managers are selecting 3 players that cost more than the base amount of money. And by the way, I'm excluding goalkeepers from this. So that means, 6%, 6 people are spending a lot of money on their bench, really. We'll go on to the reasons why in a second. We've got 36% with 2 players who cost money on the bench. Most, though, 41% only have 1 player on their bench that costs more than the base amount of money for their price, and a lot of that is Rodgers or a 4.5 million defender rather than a 4 million defender. And we see 17% spending absolutely no money on their bench, only base level priced players on their bench. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. Actually, we saw interestingly that this season 3% of our experts are using the bench boost in game week 1, and that is another reason why we see more people putting more money on their bench at the moment. And we've actually seen a few more are actually planning an early bench boost this season as well. One of the reasons for that is that there's going to be less double game weeks this year, so bench boost game week 1 could be an opportunity, but with only 3% of our experts using that bench boost strategy for game week 1, it's not enough of a trend for me to recommend it to you guys. However, rotating goalkeepers, we're seeing more of our experts are picking 2 goalkeepers that cost more than 4 million. I think one reason for that is that there's no 4 million goalkeepers this season that will be playing. So if you do want to use multiple goalkeepers and swap them depending on the fixture, you are going to have to spend a little bit more money on those goalkeepers. So 14% are spending a little bit of money on their bench goalkeeper with the view to rotate them. But 86%, the vast majority, just going for the 1 goalkeeper in their starting 11 and spending 4 million on their backup goalkeeper. And finally, guys, we can have a look at the captains. So again, guys, we are seeing a lot of differentiation, which is amazing. And I think the big trend this year, because I do this video every single year and I always look back at previous year's data, and often we find some super strong trends, some super strong templates. But this season, there's a lot more disagreement among FPL managers, which is amazing. We're going to see different tactics, different teams, and different captains here. Salah is being selected by 50%, and that is the number 1 pick. So even the number 1 selected captain for game week 1 is only being captained by half of our experts. And by the way, guys, Salah, he's sitting at 70% selected. So 20% of those who own Salah are not captaining him anyway, because a lot of people are going for Isak. 32% was way higher than I expected for Alexander Isak. But a home game against Southampton for a great player like Isak is definitely a tempting proposition, and that's why so many are going for him instead of that away fixture against Ipswich for Salah. Erling Haaland is coming in at 3rd with 10% of our experts choosing him as their captain against Chelsea away. After that, 3% Saka, 2% Son. Gordon, Havertz, Luis Diaz, I've included in this list on this graphic because it's interesting. But these players who are 3% or less, I would definitely not say there is enough of a trend there to justify captaining them. So I think our decision for captain for game week 1 is between Salah, Isak and Haaland. Salah is by far the most popular choice, but that doesn't mean Isak is not an option either, because he certainly is, and as is Haaland as well. Even if you do own Salah, that doesn't mean you have to captain him for game week 1. There are some other options there as well. But guys, that is going to be all of the information we have in today's video. I've got more data, and I think I can build a really nice team from this data as well. So if you guys would like to see me build a team using this data, including the captain, all the players, use the budget to create the perfect team according to our experts, let me know if you would like to see that, and make sure you do leave a like and subscribe as well. And guys, one more thing. Leave a comment. I would love to hear some of your thoughts on what we've seen today, because I have found a lot of surprising things in today's video, and I want to talk about it with you guys. I want to get your opinion, and I want to chat with you. So yeah, leave a comment in the comment section, and we'll get the discussion going. But that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching once again. We'll be back tomorrow for yet another video. Make sure you do check out Fantasy Football Hub using the link in the description, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.